Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up and use Amazon Workspaces. I'm going to show you how to set up a directory to store all of your users in, and also show you how to create a instance that you can use to log into using Windows, so that you'll be able to use things like Microsoft Office or Excel or any other Windows program as well. Also, this video is going to use the free tier, so everything here is going to be free provided your AWS account is less than 12 months old. Okay, so in order to get started, we need to go to the Workspaces section of the console. You can either navigate to it if you have it here under Recently Visited, or you can just type in Workspaces up here. And so we're going to click on Workspaces. And so if this is your first time going to Workspaces, you'll probably see something over here on the right that says Quick Setup or Quick Start or something like that. If you want, you can set that up or set this up using that method, but it's going to skip much of the details that I think you should probably know about, including how cost works and things like that, and some of the other settings that you're going to want to have control over. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you how to set it up without the Quick Start. And also be helpful because after you come back to this section, if you've already created a directory or a workspace, you won't have that option anyway, so it probably makes sense to do it the way that I'm about to show you from the get-go. Okay, so to get started, we're going to go to the left-hand side here where it says Directories, and we're going to click on that. And directories, just to give you an idea of what we're doing first, is in order to get started with creating an instance, we first need to set up a directory. And the directory is just going to be the repository for users, including their logins and passwords, things like that. We're not going to actually interact with passwords. Users are going to be able to set those themselves, but you need to create kind of a storage location for your users, and that's what a directory is. And so you can have multiple different directories. You can use Microsoft Active Directory, or you can use the one that I'm about to use, which is Simple AD or Simple Active Directory, which is much simpler, as you would imagine. And also, well, it's not free to use, but I believe it's open source technology as well, so you can look into that as well. Anyways, to get started, we're going to go ahead and click on Create Directory over here in the top right. And so this is going to launch the directory wizard. So the first thing that we need to do is select the directory type, as you can see, and you have a couple options here. So you can choose AWS Managed Microsoft Active Directory. You can choose Simple Active Directory, which is what we're going to use, or AD Connector. AD Connector, I know that this one allows you to use an AD or Active Directory that you have set up elsewhere. AWS Managed AD, I'm not sure exactly what this is. You'll probably have to read up about this. To be honest, I'm not a Microsoft guy, so I don't really know too much about Active Directory, but you'll probably know what this means, but I'm going to skip this and simply choose AD. And I believe AD is cheaper as well. It's only going to cost, I think, like $30 or so a month to use this method. Well, this is all under free tier anyway, so that doesn't matter for you. Okay, so let's go ahead now and click on Next here. And now we need to fill out the directory information. And so we need to choose the directory size. You can see we can choose between small and large. Small costs $36 a month, whereas large is $108. And small directories can have up to 2,000 objects. Don't need to worry about that, including 500 users, groups, and computers each, whereas large is for obviously larger, so 5,000 users. So for our case, we're going to choose small here because this is just a sample application, but for you, you may want to think about this. So that's good. For organization name, you can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call this Be a Better Dev. And then you need to fill out a directory DNS name. This can also be whatever you want as long as it follows the fully qualified domain name. So something.something.com. So we're going to say beabetterdev.example.com. You can leave directory netbios empty, and then you're going to have a default administrator user that gets set up. So you're going to need to create a password for that. So go ahead and type something in here. And again, oops, I think I mistyped that. Okay, cool. You can also put in a description if you want to keep track of this and look at this a little cleaner later on to understand what this directory is for. Okay, so let's go ahead now and click on Next. And okay, we can't have spaces here, it looks like. So let's just remove that and just camel case it. Okay, let's try again. Next, and my organization name is taken. Okay, interesting. Wow, that's kind of strange. I wouldn't have expected that. Let's try that, be a better dev. It looks like someone is trying to be me somewhere else on the AWS interwebs here. Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. Phew. I thought there was going to be multiple versions of me, which was concerning. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is set up which network we'd like to use for our Active Directory or for a directory. So we are going to be using our default VPC here. You can also select from if you have other VPCs you'd like to create this in, and it's going to ask us for subnets that we would like to create this directory within. Now these need to be public subnets, so make sure that you select public subnets. Now if you're using the default AWS VPC, they take a kind of a patterned name here, so it's subnet dash some random text here, and then you'll see over at the end USC store whatever region you're in, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Depending on what region you're in, you'll see a different number of these. In my case, I have 1A, 1B, where's C here? C, D, E, and F. And then I have a private subnet here. So I'm not going to select the private subnet because if I do, this isn't going to work. So let's make sure that we select both of these. Now, the reason that we have to select at least two is for availability purposes, because if one availability zone goes down, and then we're still going to have availability. So if one data center fails or one portion of a data center fails, your workspace client isn't going to be affected. People are still going to be able to log in and do their job. AWS handles all of that for you, which is one of the other nice things about using workspaces. Okay, so let's carry on here. Click on next in the bottom right. This is just giving us a confirmation page, and you can see it's going to cost us approximately $36 per month, and it's billed at the hour level. And you can see also that it's free trial eligible. So pricing for this one is a little bit different. It's free trial, which means that the first time you set up and use Active Directory, you're going to be able to get 30 days for free. So it's not quite free tier, but the first time that you start using it, you're going to be able to use it for free. So let's go ahead and click on Create Directory now. And from what I recall, when I was testing this initially, this does take quite a little bit of time to set up and get started and registered here. And so I am going to, so this is in creating state right now. So I'm just going to fast forward this, and then I'll come back when this is all done. All right, so after about 10 minutes or so, you can see here that our directory became active, as you can tell there. One thing that you'll notice is that it is currently not in the registered state. The registered state here is false when it needs to be true. So that's something that we need to do first in order to set up the clients that are going to exist within this directory. And so in order to do that, we're going to go to select the directory over here on the left-hand side, go to the Actions section, and then click on Register. And when you register, this is essentially going to force you to select those two subnets once more that we selected in the previous step, just to associate them with the domain. And so we're going to select the same ones that we saw previously, so 1A and 1B. Okay, and then you have two different options that you can tick or enable if you want to. The first is for self-service permissions. If you click on this, you can see a little bit more, but it essentially allows the user that you create the account for to change some of the settings for their account, things like their volume size and stuff like that. Now this will have cost implications. You can see the other ones here. So volume size, compute type, and running mode. So this will have some cost implications for you if you're an administrator, but if you want to give users the ability to kind of self-control which type they have, how much power that goes on their machine, then you're going to want to choose this, but I'm not going to do that in this case. And in addition, if you want to use Amazon Workdocs for the user's instance, then you can enable this as well. Keep in mind that if you enable this, when you go through the deletion or the cleanup step for your Active Directory and for your client, you're going to have to delete some things in Amazon Workdocs as well. And just for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to do that so that we can skip those steps during the cleanup phase. Okay, so now let's go ahead and click on register over here in the bottom right, and this should be pretty much instant. I don't think this takes too long, but it may be a couple minutes. Okay, there we go. So it was just a couple seconds. All right, so now we're good to go to essentially start creating our workspace client, which is that virtual client that we're going to be able to log into. And in order to get started with that, we're going to go to the left-hand side here where it says Workspaces, and we're going to click on this. And this is going to be where we create that instance. So go ahead and go to Create Workspaces, the orange button in the top right here, and this will launch the Workspace Creation Wizard. And so as you can see, the first thing it's asking us to do is to select the directory we would like to create this instance in. And in our case, we just created our directory, the Be a Better Dev example.com or Be a Better Dev with the extra V organization. So we're going to go ahead and click on this directory and then click on Next here. And this is where we set our initial users. Now you can always add more users here, but if you have 5 users that you like to create initially, you can do that. So I'm just going to create one for myself just temporarily. So then you can see how this works. So I'm just going to call this Daniel, and then first name is Daniel as well, last name Galati. And then make sure you put in a valid email here because a invite is going to be sent to this email address that I will show you as well that contains instructions on how to download the client and how to register for the account. So I'm going to put in my valid email here, which is daniel@beabetterdev.com. And if you want to create additional users all at once, you can click on this button, but I'm just going to create one for myself. So we're going to leave it as is. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on Next now. We're going to choose some more settings, and it's just asking us to confirm the users from the directory. This is the one that we just created. You can see that it creates some other kind of administrative ones. I didn't do any of this. This was all Workspaces system itself. So we're going to keep this one selected. We're going to go ahead and click on Next in the bottom right. And here is where we get to choose the characteristics of our machine and the operating system and everything like that, which in Workspaces, they call bundles. And as you can see here, Linux bundles come with Firefox, LibreOffice, which is kind of like a Excel version, Evolution, Python, and more. Windows come with Internet Explorer and Firefox, and you can install your own applications within Workspaces after launch. And of course, the pricing that you're going to pay for the different types, value, standard, performance, power, Power Pro, or GPU enabled are going to be different. And I have the URL of the pricing page up and running here. So I just want to show you this really quick. And so if we scroll down into the how pricing works or the workspace pricing section, you can see the pricing model that it uses. So you can select the different types. So either Windows, Linux, or Ubuntu. And also there's a Windows version, which is where you bring your own license, which is slightly cheaper. But for Windows, which is what we're going to do here, you can see how this works. So you have a root volume size, which is this amount here. You have the user volume, which is how much the user has access to, and the monthly pricing. So this user for 80 and 10 is going to be $25 a month if you choose to use the monthly pricing model. And if you choose to use the hourly pricing model, it's slightly different. So it's $7.25 a month and then 22 cents an hour. So if you're going to be using this not very often, then this makes total sense to use. But if you're going to use this a little bit more where it makes sense, you can do your own math here to figure out what the break-even point is. But you can kind of choose whichever model that you prefer. Okay, so I'm just going to close this and then we're going to go back to the selection page. And so if you click on each of these, this will kind of give you the different types. Maybe I can zoom out my browser a little bit. So okay, that's all right. You can see it's got 1 VP CPU and 2 GB of memory. There's the standard, which is more powerful, keeps on getting more powerful as you can see, and the pricing obviously will keep on scaling up. So for stuff that there's some free tier options that are available. So if we go to performance, so there's a free tier, but it's only for Ubuntu, and these are all the different types that you have access to. Then you have like standard tier, which gives you access to for free tier eligible Ubuntu. Then there's the Windows version, and then this is a slightly different Windows version. Actually, is this the same? Okay, it may have some different settings. If you scroll to the right, you can see some more configuration on it. It could just be a different version or when it was last updated, something like that. But anyways, you can see, choose which type that you want. Make sure that if you don't want to be charged anything and you're just following along, you choose one of these options that says free tier eligible beside it. For me, since I'm okay with spending a little bit of money to show you this, I'm going to choose the performance version. And I'm also going to show you the version that has Office and all that on it. So I believe it's this one. Yeah, so performance with Windows 10 and Office 2019 Pro Plus. So we're going to click on this. So that's the version that we want, and we're going to go ahead and click on Next now. And here's where we choose the different pricing models essentially. So if you choose the always on, this is going to use the monthly price. So I think when I was looking at it, it was $25 a month for the lowest tier version. Whereas if you use the auto stop, that's going to automatically turn your instance off after an hour of inactivity, and you can set that number here. So it can either be 1 hour, 2 hours, all the way up to 48 hours of inactivity. So I think it's wise to keep it off in the shortest amount of time if you're just a normal user. But if you're someone that's going to be doing things like running scripts on this where you need to stay alive afterwards for a couple hours or a day or two, then increase this number a little bit. Just keep in mind that it's going to cost you a little bit more and you're going to be billed by the hour for doing so. Okay, so we're going to use the auto stop version and we're going to leave the tags as default with nothing. Go ahead and click on next. And then encryption key, we don't need to use set that if we don't want to encrypt anything. This is for the volume. So if you want to encrypt your data, you can do that, which is probably a good idea to do if you're storing any sensitive information on here. And then for user volume, you can specify which configuration you want. This one is a little bit more expensive, the default, since it's 80 for the root and 100 for the user. And this one is cheaper for 80 for the root and 10 for the user. So I'm just going to select this one since we're not going to be doing really much in terms of data manipulation on this instance anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and click on next now, and we are almost done. This is just the review phase now. Okay, so this is the user, this is the identify users, not sure what the difference is there. This is the bundle we're setting up, so the performance Windows 10 with Office, okay. Auto stop, okay. The bundle is, or sorry, the root is 80, the user is 10. Awesome, let's go ahead and click on create now. And often this takes, in my experience of testing this out 3 or 4 times, about 5 minutes or so. So I'm just going to fast forward the video and then I'll refresh it once we come back to see what the status is. We should see something akin to like active or online. Yeah, right now it's in pending. So I'll fast forward this when this is all done and I'll see you in a minute. All right, so this took around 10 minutes or so for the instance to get set up, which I presume is because we installed the Office version, which requires it to set up Microsoft Office and Excel and all that, which notoriously takes a long time. But anyways, we are now ready to go to actually create our account and sign into it. You can also, by the way, just click on this and click on this bottom section here to check out some of the details of the instance as well, including some of the settings that we specified, the IP address, the name, all these other things that you can check out. Nothing too interesting though, but just in case you were curious. So at this point, what will have happened is that AWS will have sent you an email with the login information or a login URL for this particular user. And so I have the email open on my other screen here, which I will drag into the window. So this is what the email looks like. So the title is your Amazon Workspace, and it's got a couple steps here that you need to go through. The first one is to complete your profile and download the Workspaces client, using the following link. And then it's asking us to launch the client and enter a registration code, and then log in with your newly created password, and your username is Daniel. And so let's follow these instructions really quick. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to just open another tab here. I'm going to paste that in. And this is going to ask us to set our password. And so I'm going to set this, well, not that, but I'm going to set this to whatever I want here. And okay, put that in and go ahead now and click on update user. And so we're good to go here. And no, I don't want to save this now. So the next thing that you need to do is you need to download and install the Workspaces client. And as you can see, there's multiple different types. So depending on what version or what operating system you're on, you need to download the corresponding one. So there's Windows, there's iPad, there's Mac, Android Chromebook, Fire Tablet, Web, and Linux. Now, one thing that I did discover, and it's buried in the print here, is that if you're trying to access your personal Windows environment, you can only do so on Android, iOS, Fire, Mac, PC, Chromebook, and Linux devices. If you try to access it using the web access, this will not work. So you need to use, depending on what your operating system is, the client that is available at these URLs. So in my case, what I did is I downloaded and installed the 64-bit Windows client here, which is more likely than not what you're going to need to do as well. So if you haven't done that already, just make sure you go ahead and do that now. And then what's going to happen once you open that up is you're going to see this window here. And this window now is asking us for our registration code or to select one from the dropdown. Now this registration code is the one that we just had open in the email. So let me go and grab that. It is this guy here. And we're going to go and open that back up again. We're going to paste that in and click on register. And then it's going to ask us for our username and password that we just set up a moment ago. So I'm going to put in my username, which is Daniel. Now I'm going to put in my password. And you can optionally select keep yourself logged in, which I will do. So you don't have to do this every time. Click on sign in. And since this is your first time signing in, this may take a little bit longer than usual. Actually, that's one thing I noticed just in general while this is booting up is that it takes a little bit longer for it to be kind of in general more responsive to your mouse clicks, to your keyboard entries, to just loading programs in general. After you do it the second or third or fourth time, it's much quicker in terms of signing in and interacting with your workspace. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be as slow as you may think it may be when it's the first time you launch it and boot it up. Anyways, sometimes this takes a minute or two depending on which type of instance that you set up. And so I'm going to again fast forward this if I need to and come back when it's all done. I'll see you in a minute. All right, so after a minute or so, here we are. This is the Amazon Workspaces client, which as you can see is just like a normal Windows machine. And you can do everything that you would normally do on a Windows machine. You can kind of open up your file directories here to take a look at things if this would be responsive. There you go. Yeah, like I said, sometimes it's a little bit clunky in the beginning, especially because things are just kind of getting booted up for the first time. This shouldn't take this long though. There we go. I think it was just a bug on my side. Anyways, this is just a normal PC. So all of the files that you set up here, they're all going to be persistent. So if you save stuff onto your downloads, for example, they're going to show up the next time that you're here. They're not going to just go away. Amazon's going to store those for you. And since we did install or select the Office version, we should have, yeah, there you go. So we have access to PowerPoint, Outlook, Excel, Access, all the things that you would expect to see on an Office machine. And so you can interact and use this as you normally would any Windows machine. And so once you're done, all you have to do is click on the X in the top right here and it'll automatically sign you out. And then like I said, after an hour, if you selected that option for auto start and auto stop, it's going to automatically tear down, well, not tear down this instance, but pause the instance so that you're not billed anymore by the hour. And so that's how you set up the Workspaces client. I'm just going to close this now and show you how to clean everything you did up so you're not billed for anything that you don't intend to be billed. And so like you can see, we just disconnected. So we're going to close that. We're going to close this. And so in order to get rid of everything that we just did, we first need to remove our Workspace client, which is this one here. So we're going to be in the Workspaces section, have this selected and go to delete and just type in delete here. And this is going to start deleting it. So this does take a couple minutes. It's going to like terminate the instance and then tear down the virtual machine that it's running on as well. Once you're done this, you're going to want to go back to the directory section. And then you're going to want to select the directory and then you're going to want to go to actions. And then first you're going to want to go to deregister. And when you click on this, so it's not going to let us deregister because the instance is still tearing down, but I'm not going to wait like 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is to do that. But, you're obviously going to want to if you want to clean up everything. But assuming that you did this successfully after you deregister, you're going to want to go to actions and then just go to delete and then you're done. You can basically walk away from this and you're not going to be charged anything. Now, one other couple other things I wanted to talk about before I let you go is just to talk about some of these other options here, which are the bundles and the images, then IP access controls. So in terms of bundles, what you can do is that you can set up a instance and then download some software onto it, like your Workspace client, and then you can create a image out of it. And that image can just be something that, maybe you have a special kind of software that's custom to your company that you want to clone and make it so that anyone that's creating a new Workspace instance automatically gets all of that stuff installed. You can set that up and create your own image or bundle just through a couple of commands here. And so I don't have my instance up anymore, so I'm not able to do it, but you'd be able to create your own bundle out of that Workspace instance that you've just created. Now, the other interesting one too is in terms of security, so IP access controls. Now, what this allows you to do if you create an access control group is to basically establish some rules so that only individuals that are part of a certain IP address range are allowed to connect to the Workspace clients. This is great if you have maybe a couple employees that are in a particular location and they have a fixed IP address. You're able to ensure that only those users are going to be able to log in, presuming that they know the password and everything to their instance. But only those users are going to be able to have network access to your instances. And so that's just another security layer that you can add on top of this. There's some other stuff that you can do in terms of account settings. This is just for cross-region redirection if you're getting access from multiple regions. But this one isn't as interesting. But this was Amazon Workspaces and how to set up a workspace directory and a workspace client. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.